Welcome, everyone, to a Dose of Wisdom real estate podcast, where you could get your daily dose of wisdom on all things real estate related. I am your host, David Stein, and today we have the privilege of having on our show Yonah Weiss. Yonah is the Regional Business Director of Madison Specs, a national leader in cost segregation, and Yonah himself is an expert on cost segregation. He also has a popular podcast called Weiss Advice, which I highly recommend. Thank you again, Yonah, for coming on the show.
Pleasure, David. Wonderful to be here.
Yep. Thank you. So my first question to you is, could you explain for the common layperson what exactly is cost segregation and why it's a critical tool for all real estate investors?
So cost segregation, it's a really weird name that the IRS gave to this tax deduction called depreciation. Okay, it's an advanced form of depreciation. So anyone who's a real estate investor should know what depreciation is, and they're taking this tax deduction that allows them to reduce their income tax liability by a tiny bit each year. Okay, essentially how depreciation works is when you buy a property, you're able to deduct basically the whole purchase price over a 27.5 or 39-year period. So you're essentially taking about a 2 to 3% deduction of that property every single year. Well, what we do is something called cost segregation, breaking out the property into actually its individual components. And some of those components depreciate faster. So simply put, it's a cash flow mechanism that allows property owners to pull out from their potential deductions in the early years, as opposed to just waiting and taking an equal amount every year.
Yeah, that sounds really important. So what's the backstory to how you came to be involved in the niche of cost segregation?
The backstory is I was a teacher for many years. For listeners who are familiar with what Kollel is and learning, I did that for about 15 years and teaching as well. But at a certain point, I needed some other forms of income and just got into real estate. Eventually met up with some friends, and everyone kept telling me real estate is the way to go. So I just listened to the advice of people smarter than me, more successful than me, and got involved in various different things in the early days, from mortgage brokering to hard money lending to residential brokerage. Was doing some fix and flips, really just a little bit of everything, just getting my hands dirty and feet wet, just to use some cliches there, and learned a tremendous amount. But at one point, about close to 6 years ago, I was introduced to this company, Madison, a very, very prominent company in the tri-state area, Madison title. And so they have this company, a division called Madison Specs, which is the cost segregation company. Happens to be the largest national cost segregation company. A lot of people don't know that. And it was just a great fit. I really related to them. They needed someone to do business development, and that came with a lot of teaching and education. And that's really what my background is. And so it just was a perfect fit. And here we are today.
Great. So you have a popular gimmick where you give out socks branded with the Weiss Advice logo. So I just wanted to know, how did you come up with this novel idea? And I just wanted your thoughts in general on the power of branding in your business.
Yeah, marketing, branding are huge, really, really important. I also have t-shirts that I give away and hoodies and stuff that people leave reviews on my podcast. So originally, first of all, I have an amazing person who does a lot of like branding and swag and stuff like that. And once a year, the idea was just to send a gift to anyone who's been a guest on my podcast. And at this point, I have about 300 plus episodes that I've done. And so I just wanted like a token of appreciation. So the first year we actually did some little pocket knives that had like Weiss Advice on it. And that was great. And then the next year, this person gave me some ideas. It was like, how about socks? I was like, socks? Yeah, sure. Why not? So we ended up sending it out, and it's had like the slogan of the podcast, your network is your net worth, and send that out to all the guests originally. And then I was like, listen, maybe we could do, it's going to cost the same amount, or actually going to be less if we do more. I only have 100 guests to send it to, but what if we actually make more socks and do like networking socks that I could just hand out at events that I go to and stuff,
Right.
and send to people. And so that was the idea. It wasn't my idea. I wish I was that smart, because I had no idea that socks would be so popular. But turns out everyone wears socks. So that was really amazing. And so I was just handing them out at different conferences I went to, and then sending them to people. And the amazing thing is, people actually really enjoy them, and post pictures of them on social media and stuff. But it really comes to comes down to the fact that branding is so super important,
Right.
and just getting your message or getting your name out there, people remember it. And so whether it's on your feet or on your t-shirt logo, whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. Well, after the show, I want to tell you where to mail my pair of socks.
You got it.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges you have faced in your career, and how did you overcome it?
All challenges I see are really, the biggest challenges are internal. And so
Right.
it's really getting over yourself and getting over the things that are putting yourself in your way. The one external challenge that I had when I started seeing the power of social media, people in my company did not see the same thing. And so they're like, why are you wasting your time and social media, all that stuff? I really saw, and I didn't see it immediately, but I kind of had a vision, and I knew just from seeing how marketing works that being active on social media, especially LinkedIn at the time, and continue to do so, had so much positive influence, and can attract so much business. And people didn't see that, but I did. I kind of foresaw that, and it really has. I like to say it's like 10x result. It's really more like 100x result from what I ever imagined. So that was probably the biggest external challenge that I had.
Right. Yeah. Well, I have to agree with you on that. LinkedIn specifically, I find to be incredibly powerful. So yeah. Do you have any interesting success stories that you've had helping clients with course segregation that you wish to share?
I mean, the biggest success story, which is literally like almost every single day, is just educating people, opening their eyes
Right.
and being like blown away and seeing the results of the actual tax savings that they have.
Right.
But it's incredible. And I really had one client who was a real estate broker. And so for anyone who's a real estate broker or agent, you're already considered a real estate professional. You should be investing in rental properties as well. So to take advantage of the cost segregation, the tax benefits. So I had one guy who was the top agent in his brokerage in his county, like a large county in California, where he was doing, millions of dollars of commissions every year, and was
Right.
paying through the roof in tax and income tax, and had no
Yeah.
idea about cost segregation, but also bought some rental properties. And so he heard about this. He read a book. Tom Wheelwright has a great book called Tax Free Wealth, and he talks about cost segregation, talks about depreciation there. And the guy like somehow found me, reached out to me, and we ended up having we're able to have him pay zero income tax, like going from paying like close to $500,000 of income tax bill to paying zero in that year. And that like was very eye-opening to him. And so that was a huge success story for me.
That's amazing. Yeah. Do you have any interesting stories of divine providence or Ashgacha Pratis that you wish to share with the audience?
Every day, every day is incredible divine providence. I mean, it's really opening your eyes to it. And that's the truth. If we have amazing things happening to us on a daily basis, everything happens for a reason, but it's really more than anything, opening your eyes to it and seeing it. I'll just share, one story right now that just comes to mind, how I got my job in the first place. You may have heard this on other podcasts, but it's just incredible. Like literally, I had a friend also named David who I'd worked with previously in mortgage, the brokering. And he happened to run into someone as he was getting out of his car, and an old friend of his, and said, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And he said, "Oh, I was just into this other guy, Yitz, was interviewing at Madison." And I had reached out to this friend David of mine a week prior, saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a new opportunity. If you hear of any, job openings, anything that's in the real estate, I'm open to looking." And he bumped into this guy. Yeah, says, "Oh, I just interviewed this company, Madison, who just hired me for a job." And literally, neither of them had ever been in that city where they had met each other on the street. Like both were going to like a restaurant to meet someone, like traveling a distance to go there. And that was the Hashgacha Pratis, that through that I was actually able to, to be interviewed and then get my job at the current company I'm at, Madison. But it just came through again, just incredible two people meeting in a random place that neither of them had been to before, that both knew each other, and that led to that opportunity.
That's great. That's a great story. I appreciate that. My final question to you is, what advice would you give someone starting out in real estate right now?
The best advice for anyone starting out is really twofold. Number one, continue learning. Just find podcasts like this, or there are articles, there are other things out there you can learn about real estate. There's so much to learn. But the second thing is connect with people who have already done it. Right. The biggest advantage is having a mentor, having someone that can guide you, who's already been through it, and will literally accelerate your growth far beyond anything else. On my podcast, I ask similar questions, and one thing that is consistent with all of these successful people I interview is they've had mentors. They've had people who have helped them to grow and get in the business a lot faster than they would have ever been able to do on their own.
Okay. Well, thank you again. And thank you again for taking the time to be on the show.
Been a pleasure, David. Anytime.
Yeah. All right. Have a good day.